Welcome to the podcast, Creator Flow Unwritten Exit by D Creator, powered by Howdy Analytics. Today, our mission is, it's to unpack those unwritten rules, the ones that often hold us back. Could be in contracts, maybe platform terms, or sometimes just stuck in our own heads. We're aiming to help you discover how spotting these hidden assumptions and really understanding your rights can bring some serious clarity and freedom, both creatively and professionally. We're working from this really comprehensive guide that helps creators get a handle on their agreements and, importantly, their exits. And look, this isn't just about the dry legal stuff. It's also the emotional side, the practical side of navigating all this with confidence. Let's get into it. It really is fascinating, isn't it? How often we just live by rules we never actually chose. They get passed down as common sense or, best practices. And just because they're repeated, they start to feel like real laws. But the truth is, a lot of them aren't legally binding. And honestly, sometimes they're not even healthy for us.
That's exactly right. You're hitting on something we call the assumption trap. It's incredible how quietly these unwritten rules can just box you in, limit your freedom. They get their power not because they're true or legally sound, but simply because they've been repeated so often. Everyone acts like it's a rule.
So it just becomes perceived reality.
Precisely. Doesn't mean it is the rule.
That concept alone is, wow, powerful. Can you give us an example where this assumption trap really played out? Because our source material has this really compelling one, the Michigan lease law thing and the 60-day notice myth.
Oh, absolutely. That case is a perfect illustration. You had this property management company in Michigan. For years, they were charging tenants a 2-month early termination fee. Mistakenly.
Even after the lease ended?
Yes, even after a fixed-term lease just finished. All because the tenant didn't give a 60-day notice. It went on for years. Then finally, one tenant just refused to pay.
Okay.
The company, totally confident, they pushed back hard. This is how we've always done it. But then their own lawyers looked into it. And guess what? The truth came out. In Michigan, tenants don't need to give notice when a fixed-term lease naturally ends. That rule, it had been enforced for years, costing people money, shaping decisions.
Stressing people out, I imagine.
Exactly. Pure assumption. Zero legal basis for that specific fee in that context.
That's just astonishing. I can only imagine the frustration finding out you've been following a fake rule. What's the emotional impact when people realize they've fallen into one of these traps?
Yeah, the emotional cost, it can be pretty significant. There's often that initial, wave of frustration. Trust gets shaken, in the system, sometimes in yourself.
Right, you might feel a bit foolish.
Maybe embarrassment, for not knowing sooner. Or even guilt if you accidentally went along with it. But here's the really critical part, the shift. These moments, they're jarring at first, but they are actually freedom in disguise. Once you see an assumption for what it is, just an assumption, boom, you suddenly have choices you didn't know you had.
It opens things up.
Totally. It opens up your world. So we really encourage you, question everything. Ask, who told me this? Why? Is it actually law or just habit? Does following it empower me or does it just drain me? And maybe the biggest question, can I just try not following it? What happens then?
That idea, experimenting with not following a rule you just assumed was real, that's a powerful shift. Okay, so if step one is unmasking these hidden rules, then clarity isn't just a one-off discovery, right? It sounds more like an ongoing practice, a discipline, especially with contracts, collaborations, all that creative work stuff.
Precisely, and that's why we advocate for what we call the clarity audit. Think of it as a structured step-by-step guide, a way to systematically look at all your agreements. Formal contracts, sure, but also content deals, collaborations. The goal is to spot problems before they start.
Okay, a clarity audit.
Yeah.
I like that. What are the core steps? How do you actually do it?
Okay, 6 core steps. First, inventory. Just gather everything. Every active contract, statement of work, those emails or DMs that change the scope, even platform terms of service. You might honestly be surprised what counts as an agreement.
I bet. That first step alone sounds like it could be a huge eye-opener for a lot of creators.
Yeah.
What's the biggest hurdle there? Just finding everything. Or knowing what to even look for.
It's often the sheer volume, or just recognizing that, informal DMs, they can actually form part of the deal, legally speaking. But once you have that pile, step 2 is summarize in 2 sentences. Super simple. What are you giving? What are you getting back? If you can't state that clearly, Houston, we have a clarity problem.
Right. That's a great litmus test.
Yeah.
Okay, got the summary. What's next?
Step 3, map responsibilities. Get specific. Who approves what? Who delivers the work? Who pays? And crucially, by when? Nailing this down prevents so much friction later.
Makes sense.
4th step, trace risk points. Now you're hunting for the tricky clauses. Things like IP ownership, usage rights, those sneaky auto-renewals, termination clauses. And really pay attention to indemnities. That's basically who's on the hook financially if something goes sideways.
Indemnities. Okay, yeah, that's one of those words people probably skim over, but it sounds critical. What are the last two steps?
Fifth, cross-check with reality. This is key. Compare what the document says with your actual life, your real-time commitments, cash flow situation, your mental bandwidth right now. Does the paper match reality?
The gut check.
Exactly. And finally, step 6, decide actions. Based on everything you've found, are you going to keep this agreement as is, try to amend it, or is it time to plan an exit? And importantly, set deadlines for making those decisions. Don't let it just drift.
That cross-check with reality step, that feels like where a lot of those assumptions we talked about earlier would really glare back at you. And speaking of detail, the source material really zoned in on how tiny words can have big consequences. What are some examples of those seemingly harmless terms that actually hide major pitfalls?
Oh yeah, these are classic traps. They look innocent but carry huge weight. You got vague terms like reasonable or as needed, industry standard, maybe sole discretion. These basically give the other party enormous flexibility, usually not in your favor.
Right, leaves it wide open.
Then you have exit traps, like crazy long notice periods or unclear terms for winding things down, or rights that just never come back to you. Also, watch out for renewal drift, those auto-renewals that just happen, or hidden price hikes buried in the fine print.
Sneaky.
And a big one, usage sprawl. This is where you might grant rights that are perpetual, worldwide, even sublicensible.
Meaning they can license your stuff to someone else.
Exactly, all for maybe a modest upfront fee. It's totally out of proportion. And finally, listen to your gut. Those emotional triggers clauses that just make you feel uneasy, that's often a signal that a boundary is missing or being crossed.
That is such a useful breakdown. Okay, can we make this even more concrete? Is there a real-world example, a creator who did this audit, fixed some tiny words, and saw real results?
Definitely. We saw this with a mid-tier creator. They had a 6-month brand deal, the initial contract, super vague scope, unlimited revisions, perpetual usage of their content in paid ads, net 45 payment terms.
Which is tough on cash flow.
Really tough. And, of course, an auto-renewal clause. So they did the audit. The fixes were specific, targeted. They scooped it down to exactly 8 assets, clear formats tied to a calendar. Revisions capped at 2 rounds, extras billed separately. Usage, limited to 6 months, organic only. Paid usage became a separate add-on, different fee, payment terms. Changed to 50% up front, net 10 on final delivery. Plus, a 2% monthly late fee if payment was overdue.
Good incentive.
And crucially, that auto-renewal, gone. Replaced with an opt-in, requiring a review 30 days before the end. The outcome, predictable workload, clean calendar, much healthier cash flow. And interestingly, the brand relationship actually stayed strong because expectations were crystal clear from the start.
That's a massive difference. From potential chaos to real clarity. It really underlines that idea. Legal clarity equals emotional clarity. How do you see that connection playing out day to day for creators?
Well, knowing your rights, it's not just about legal leverage. It's genuinely a form of emotional power. When you achieve that clarity, you stop playing by those imaginary rules we talked about. You stop feeling like you need to apologize for wanting out of something that just isn't working for you anymore. And, this is vital, you stop negotiating against yourself before you even sit down at the table.
Yeah, undercutting yourself from the start.
Exactly. This clarity frees you up, lets you engage fully, confidently. You know your boundaries, you know your value.
That emotional drain, though.
Yeah.
From being stuck in systems that don't fit. It's incredibly real. We've all felt that, right? The slow leak of energy, confidence, just feeling like you're losing control. What are the early warning signs creators should watch for to avoid getting stuck in that long-term cost? And how does this idea of emotional efficiency help manage that inner operating system?
Yeah, the warning signs are often feelings, right? Like resentment building up. Or that persistent exhaustion that isn't just about being tired. Maybe a creeping sense of dread about certain projects or calls. Emotional efficiency is about actively noticing those emotional spikes, anxiety, boredom, pressure, instead of just trying to push them down. Then you actually name the feeling, just acknowledging it. Okay, this is anxiety or this is boredom setting in. By doing that, you can start to redirect that energy into deliberate action instead of letting it just drag you down into burnout or hesitation.
So you work with the emotion, not against it.
Exactly. It becomes data, not just noise.
Okay, so once you've got that emotional clarity, that efficiency, we can shift focus to exit strategies that build legacy. This is about changing the narrative, right? Leaving isn't failing. It's intentional design. It's about honoring what you built, but also positioning yourself powerfully for whatever's next. So practically, what does a good exit plan actually involve?
An intentional exit is key. Not just running away. First, prepare early, way before you announce anything. Identify all your obligations, who depends on what, map out timelines. Next, check contractual hygiene. Go back to those agreements. Meticulously review termination clauses, notice periods, what happens after you leave post-exit rights.
The fine print again.
Always. Then, secure your data. Export your analytics, remove your credentials from shared systems, document any handovers clearly, and finally, close the loop. Send that final invoice. Get a mutual release in writing if possible, and always try to end on a note of gratitude, even if it's brief. The microscript might be simple, like, I've appreciated our work together. I'll be concluding this engagement on date. Here's the plan to ensure a smooth transition.
That practical side is crucial, but the emotional side of exiting, that feels just as important. How you frame it for yourself and others. You mentioned quitting versus evolving. What's the difference there?
Oh, it's a huge difference. Quitting often feels reactive, maybe rushed. It can leave loose ends, regrets. Evolving, though, that feels deliberate. It's communicated clearly. It has boundaries. It's designed for continuity where needed. You need an internal narrative first, something that reassures you, like, I'm choosing alignment, or I need space to grow this way.
Okay.
And then a public narrative, something like, I'm evolving this work to serve you better. Here's what stays. Here's what's changing. Focus on gratitude. Focus on growth. Avoid blame.
We saw that play out really well with that creator example, the one who pivoted from real estate news to teaching negotiation literacy.
Yeah.
How did they manage that transition so smoothly, building on their legacy, not just abandoning it?
Yeah, they were very strategic. They designed a thoughtful 90-day content bridge. They started doing weekly behind-the-clause breakdowns, kind of inviting their existing audience into the development of the new focus.
Engaging them in the shift.
Exactly. Legally, they were careful, too. Updated disclaimers, made clear distinctions between opinion and advice, got licenses for using real-world examples ethically, and for their existing partners. They offered things like guest spots on the new content or special pricing for workshops, maintaining those relationships.
What?
Their core story was really compelling. The market taught me the playbook. Now I want to teach you the moves. It wasn't abandonment. It felt like a natural evolution. And they brought their audience along, which maintained trust and built this powerful new legacy.
That's a fantastic case study, and it really highlights why we need to think about emotional intelligence in legal systems. You said contracts are like emotional documents wearing suits. I love that.
It's true. And understanding that emotional layer, it's essential. The emotions aren't the enemy here. They're actually your early warning system. They often flag risks faster than pure logic can. And understanding emotions, yours and theirs, gives you a negotiation edge. You can name the underlying concerns. Are they worried about risk, speed, certainty?
So you address the feeling behind the sticking point.
Precisely. And keeping yourself regulated, emotionally balanced, keeps you strategic under pressure, not just reactive. As for tools, we recommend simple things. Name and normalize feelings. Tell yourself, okay, this is stress, it's normal, it's not actual danger. Use somatic resets, like a 90-second focused breath before a tough call, or just a 5-minute walk after a difficult email exchange. Let your body calm down.
Physical resets.
Yeah. Use decision containers. Simple rule. Don't sign big things same day. Sleep on it. Get a trusted peer to read it over. Create space. And critically, try future casting. Ask yourself, 6 months from now, on my best week, how will I feel about this clause? And on my worst week, get that perspective.
Those are incredibly practical, grounded tools for handling stressful moments. What about the really definitive breaks, like ending things with a platform you've built on or a long-term collaborator? Is there a process for that kind of breakup?
Yeah, there's a kind of 4-step process for a cleaner exit in those tougher situations. First, private discussion first. Always. Try to clarify the issues, propose fixes, set deadlines internally, keep it behind closed doors initially. Second, contract second. Only if those private talks fail, then you formally trigger termination clauses based on the agreement. Third, public. Third, if you need to say something publicly, make it a values-forward statement. Focus on continuity for your audience. What's next for you? Avoid blame.
Keep it professional.
Absolutely. And fourth, personal, always. Debrief with your team or mentors. What did you learn? Turn that lesson into a new clause of policy for the future. Protect your reputation and your mental health.
Okay, so you navigate the exit, you get through it. Then comes the really exciting part, Rebuilding on your own terms. This feels like the payoff. The art of writing your own rules, finally. Rules that actually fit who you are now. What does building those new systems look like in practice?
It means being really conscious about designing systems that reflect your core values and your strengths. Think about establishing simple, powerful operating principles like maybe it's clarity over speed, or always credit creators, or no weekend work communications, or data drives scope decisions.
Guiding principles.
Exactly. And these aren't just nice ideas on a wall. They then actively shape your processes, your client intake, your content planning, how you run debriefs. It brings predictability without killing creativity.
So these boundaries, these new contracts you create, they're not just defensive armor. You call them trust signals. How does that work? How do they build trust?
Well, think about it from the other side. When potential clients or collaborators know exactly how you operate, when the rules of engagement are clear and upfront, they can relax into the process, and so can you.
Removes ambiguity.
Totally. You can build, say, a base contract library. Have standard clauses, but with toggle options for things like usage rights, revision rounds, payment terms, exclusivity gives you flexibility. And definitely use plain language addenda. Translate the legalese into simple terms. Recap the key points in your proposals. Transparency builds immense trust.
Let's nail this down with one last example. How does this Clarity First Contracts in Action look for someone launching maybe a weekly interview series?
Oh, it sets the whole tone right from the start. Creates a much smoother environment for everyone. For the guests, for instance, the agreements would clearly state that the release they sign applies only to their specific episode. The host keeps overall distribution rights, naturally, and guests get usable clips delivered within, say, 7 days. Clear, deliverable.
Respectful for the guest.
Exactly. For sponsors, maybe you build in category exclusivity per episode. Usage windows for their edited clips are clearly defined, maybe 3 months. And crucially, no perpetual ad rights after the campaign ends. And for the production team, or even just yourself, detail things like the number of edit rounds included, policy for rescheduling, and maybe a firm boundary like no weekend recordings. The outcome of all this: smooth operations, happy guests who feel respected, sponsors who often resign because the rules are visible, they're fair, and you actually stick to them. It creates that environment of trust and predictability.
Okay, so wrapping this up, if there's one big idea to take away today, it really feels like this. Staying too long in systems, in agreements, in situations that just don't serve you anymore, it costs you a lot, emotionally, financially, creatively. And most of those rules that feel like they're keeping you stuck, they're probably myths, not actual requirements.
Absolutely. And having this knowledge, doing this kind of audit, it makes your exit when it happens intentional, not desperate. The most powerful exit isn't the one you're forced into, it's the one you choose. It's about designing that next chapter with real purpose.
So here's something to think about as you go about your day. What if the rules you're following right now? What if they aren't actually rules at all? What if they're just unchallenged assumptions, patiently waiting for you to finally question them? Maybe take a moment later today. Consider where in your own life, your own work, you might be playing by rules that aren't even real. And remember, there are tools out there to help you start this process, like the Clarity Toolkit we mentioned. Things like contract audit checklists, exit strategy worksheets, maybe some journaling prompts for emotional clarity, negotiation prep guides, even things like a legal language glossary tailored for creators, or a script builder for those tricky platform exits. These are practical steps you can take to start moving forward with more confidence, more purpose.